gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Ruthless Talk Podcast proudly brings to you one half of the greatest podcast duo there is, me, Bryan Thomas. As you can see, James is not going to be with us today. Got some other things to do, but that's all right. We're gonna talk a little bit of SmackDown and Dynamite. We'll keep this short and sweet and get out of here, man. So as usual, I'll try to give the rundown as James does, but as always, you guys can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and everybody that has joined, like, subscribed on any of those platforms. As always, James and I, man, we thank you. Just thank you, really for just tuning in. Whether you like us, whether you hate us, whether you want to argue with us, whatever, man. Um, yeah, let's talk some pro wrestling. AEW Dynamite from Wednesday and SmackDown from Friday. So we'll jump right into it, man. We're going to start with SmackDown and the opening of the show. You get L.A. Knight. Yeah. From there, Jimmy Uso comes out, and of course, the Bloodline: Solo, Fatu, and Tama Tonga. I don't know where this is kind of going with that part of the bloodline. Speaking of Solo, Fatu, and Tama, but I will say this: eventually Braun Strowman comes out, and you get the six-man tag: L.A. Knight, Jimmy, and Braun. I got to say this about Braun Strowman. I don't know where this is going with him. And I thought last night might have been, the one time where I don't know, he kind of at least walks away from the situation, right? He gets the pin on Tamatanga, hands raised. He's the he gets the team the victory. But as usual, man, especially with Braun and Jacob Fatu, like Fatu just destroys him, man. Leaves him laying once again, to the point where this is, it's not any like back and forth or 50-50. I mean, Jacob Fatu has annihilated him like time and time again. Had him in a neck brace, put him out for a couple weeks. So I say all that to say, well, I mean, everything with Fatu is, that's spot on. I think everybody, most people in the WWE universe would agree that Fatu's a shit, and his promos are getting better, and they're getting, dare I say, they're getting awesome, man. And we see what he can do in the ring. That's the guy of the near future. But I say that all to say too, with Braun Strowman, I think it would also help Jacob a little bit if you at least book this not 50-50, but I mean, give Braun Strowman a fighting chance where it just seems that he's going out there and just getting squashed week after week by Fatu. And I don't know where that ends up, but great for Fatu. So, the start of the show, take it or leave it. We've seen this. It's another six-man tag with no real definitive direction. So, yeah, it is what it is. And from that, we get into Jade Cargill interview. I've been anticipating this. Most of WWE audience has been anticipating this. It was a decent start, I guess, her trying to explain, how she got there and why she went after Naomi and all that makes sense. And then in walks Liv and Raquel. Um, and I get it, I guess, if you want to make this angle where, Liv and Raquel have been taking the brunt of what happened there, what transpired. I get that. But Jade hasn't been responsible for that. And Jade never accused them of that. So why you're starting this off with Liv and Jade, uh, what? I mean, I kind of get it if you're just, kind of this is the start and she'll have the match with Liv and then probably Raquel and then maybe get that out of the way. But if you're starting this as a feud of some sort, that makes absolutely no sense. Jade's fight is with Naomi, and frankly, Liv, and to maybe an extent Bianca, since if you want to say that she believed Naomi, but her fight is with Naomi. So why you're now trying to get Liv and Jade to go after each other? Uh, okay. But I think this is kind of a missed out opportunity and just the wrong way to kick off this feud, if I'm being honest. But I guess this is where they're going, and I guess maybe Naomi will be sprinkled in there a little bit for the time being. But I guess Naomi will have to, or I'm sorry, Jade is going to deal with Liv and Raquel first. Which, all right. um, then we get to a match with Charlotte Flair and B-Fab. Not much to say there. B-Fab, yeah, we've started to see a little bit more of her recently. I haven't seen anything I would say that has impressed me, but she has made improvements. And I'll say this overall, just as where women's wrestling is going, which I like. Man, you look at NXT and even in WWE, and sure you can go to AEW, but just all over. But I'm going to stick to WWE and NXT right now. Um, Man, you got a big demographic of legit female superstars on the horizon. I mean, you right now established stars. You Asuka, Io. Naomi is getting there. Bianca is there. Jade is on her way up. You go down to NXT and you got people like Jada Parker, Sol Ruka. I know I'm leaving out so many people. So Jakira or oh God, what is it? Jakira Jackson. I'm probably butchering that name, but I see her on the come up, and I just say all that to say where there is so many females coming up that are gonna be fucking superstars, and I hope people are starting to pay attention now because man, they're gonna fucking kill it. And for me, just in this match, yeah, I'm tired. Like I don't need to see another Charlotte Flair. We've seen 1,000 Charlotte Flairs, and kudos to Charlotte Flair. She's a star in her own. But come on, man. Like you see it, like all these females are out there killing it. They're athletic. They can cut a promo. They're handling themselves in the ring, and you got to give them the ball and let them lead this next generation. And that's kind of where I'll leave that there. But then we get into, Tiffany runs out, and we have another brawl. And I'll say this, brawls have their place and whatnot, but I mean, and it was a long brawl that lasted segments, and we saw, and it's one of those things where I like that the ladies are also getting that shine in those segments and those opportunities. But at the same time, all you really did was just remember that brawl with Punk and Rollins just a few weeks ago. You just did the same thing and just inserted Charlotte and Tiffany. Um, so it's one of those things where it's a double-edged sword, man. Where I'm glad the females are getting that TV time to do that, but at the same time, let's also make it a little bit more out of the box and don't do what you just did with your two of the top male stars just I don't know 2-3 weeks ago. Um, so all of that, I'll say you know where this is going. Of course, they got the WrestleMania match, and I've stated here before, like man, if this is a Charlotte Flair victory again at the grandest stage to give her that record, and you don't give that moment to Tiffany right now in this moment and beating somebody like Charlotte, then again, it's one of those missed opportunities where fucking Charlotte will get that 17th championship at some point. it doesn't have to be right now, and it doesn't have to be at the expense of Tiffany and how she has risen her stock. So I'll just leave that there and let y'all, argue amongst yourselves about that one. But that's got to be Tiffany winning that match at Mania, bar none. We get a little promo from Cody Rhodes going from there. Didn't say much other than what we expected. That Cena's going to be on Raw, and Cody will be there. So, um, yeah, that's and I've stated this before too. As far as the big picture of Mania goes, the only suspense and stuff I have is that Cena Rock relationship and how that plays out. So, and a little bit with Heyman and Punk and Roman, but other than that, there's not much. So, we'll see what we get, Monday night. Do Cody and Cena confront each other? I mean, who knows how this goes down? Is Rock going to be there? Shit, they could take Cody out before, the show starts. There's a whole realm of possibilities. So, we're not really going to know until Cena and Rock start to speak, and we'll see where we go. But this has got to be fucking good, man. It's got to be good. Let me see. My eyes are bad here, so bear with me here. I got to stare at my notes. Um, Let me talk about this little Priest and Nakamura interaction. And McIntyre plays a role in here too. For what it was, I like Nakamura's part in that promo. I've seen better from Damian Priest, although it wasn't bad. But I also the matchup between Priest and Nakamura is kind of intriguing to me. And I say that to say, with as crowded as the world title picture is, with all the main event superstars, right? And I think Damian Priest is right there. He's right there on the borderline. But being that it's so crowded, if he's still like the chemistry I saw with Nakamura and him, I think that was good, man. If I've spoken about this too with Nakamura, where is he really going? Um, and also another thing with Nakamura too, I don't know if people have noticed or again if it even means anything of are they going to explain it or if it's just something that they do but add no depth because it's something that we've seen in wrestling and something with Nakamura's character, but his face paint, his face makeup. If you notice, it changes every week. It gets bigger. It's added to. Aleister Black or Malachi Black, him and they did that over at AEW, and there was meaning behind it. Um, so I just say that with Nakamura's character, like you gotta add depth to that and build those things. And here's an opportunity that they're probably just going to pass it by and he'll do that. And then, it's fucking Nakamura, 3 months from now, the gimmick's probably changed and who knows, but I gotta add to it, man. Do this shit. Like, that's all me and James ask. We'll see if it means anything. Probably not, but it'd be cool if you did something with it and told a story. And then we get to the McIntyre interference with Priest, and so they're going to continue that feud too. But there was also a look there between Nakamura and McIntyre afterwards. So again, we've been talking about these alliances, to go to I don't even know anymore to face Bloodline, to face Cody, who knows? But there's so many of these things going on that really, it's just at this point, I think it's evident that we're really not going to know until after Mania and how that all plays out. But I mean, there's McIntyre, Nakamura, Rollins, possibly, if you wanted to throw that in there. Like, there's things that could be done that could be really, really good. It's just a matter if they're going to capitalize on it or just, change the gimmick, change in face, I guess. I don't know. Um, Let's go into Chelsea Green and her little gimmick. Just a backstage promo. Not much, but I mean, her, Piper Niven, and now you add Alba Fire to it. Again, it's just a good gimmick, and these three women are just nailing it. From now, Niven and Alba Fire playing the Secret Service. Uh, the promos, how they interact off each other, it's just really it's getting good. And I hope again this isn't another one of those things that just runs its course. Eventually, Chelsea's going to lose that title, and then of course the gimmick doesn't really mean much. But for right now, man, they're killing it. So, I hope they can capitalize on this. And again, that's one of those things we'll have to see where it goes from here. But Chelsea, Piper, and even adding Alba Fire, we'll see what she does here in the next few weeks. But so far, so good, man. This could be something really good if they use it correctly, man. I think Niven and Alba Fire need to get in there and start having more matches, which maybe that's. I don't know why Piper Niven hasn't had too many matches. Maybe Alba Fire will start having some more, but I think both of them need to start getting in the ring more to make this really work. But it could be really good if so. So, WWE creative, man, listen up. Um, I guess I can talk about Orton and Mello here a little bit. KO obviously will tie into that. Let's talk about Orton here for a minute. Um, Man, if this guy isn't really at this point in his career, and if you were around when he started, as the young phenom, that yes, this is in his blood. It came to him like the back of the hand. He could perform in the ring. He's got the look. Yeah, he's it. He's a professional wrestler. Um, Now to see him come into, the human being side of him has caught up with the just the pure talent that he had. Um, Man, I can already tell this is probably going to be my one of my favorite, like, kind of ride off into the sunset wrestlers. Like the way he has, and hey, I don't know if I guarantee you fatherhood had a big part to do with that, as that is just going to change any man, period. And so with that, to see who he is as a human being, in that, and we can all speculate of who is what and whatever, but at this point, I'd be pretty confident saying that he's a good and decent man and human being, and a damn good wrestler and performer, fucking Hall of Famer in that category. So, man, I'm on board with this last run. Or maybe not last run, but one of them. And to see that clicking back where he's getting ready to do the punt kick again. Oh man. Dude, that's fucking Randy Orton. It's gonna be so fucking good. Mello. He's a guy again. I mean, he was killing it down in NXT, and kudos to him. All the kudos in the world to him, and he's the way I see it right now, the kid's young. He still has a lot of time to grow into what he's going to become. But what he's doing right now, well, I'm not really that invested or connected into it. I don't know that a lot of the fans are, but what he's doing, man, is gaining invaluable in-ring knowledge from the fucking greatest, some of the greatest ever. So all I can say to that is I hope and I'm sure he is taking notes and learning, and eventually one day he's gonna find that spark that may not be there just yet, but I hope he gets it. Um, and now going into the end of the match where KO interferes, and obviously this is setting up the Mania match, of course. Again, this is one of those matches where even though we know we got Cena at Mania and Roman and Punk and Rollins, Randy Orton and KO, man, that match could really steal the show. I'm telling you, just a sneaker of a, nothing's on the line. It's probably going to be somewhere in the mid card, but that match is going to be fantastic. So um, I'm here for it. Glad to see Orton back, and yeah, man, give me more of this Viper Randy Orton, man, because that's the best of Randy Orton. Um, I mean, I'll close out here the last few things here. Heyman promo. It was a nothing burger. Roman will be there next week. And if anybody has anything to say to him, say it to his face. So, um, I assume that both Rollins and Punk will be there. I would imagine at least those two. So it's one of those things where we'll wait until next week. And I'll say I've already commented about how I feel about this triple threat going into it. So not a whole lot more to say about that. Um, and we'll get into the Gunther and Jimmy backstage. Hmm. I mean, I know what they're doing, and I'm sure most of the WWE audience knows what they're doing. I just don't know why, with Gunther's character of how good it's been as that diabolical heel, I'm just, I know my mission and I'm going to complete it. Basically, to where now, even this match where he calls out Axiom, which it was a fucking hell of a match if you didn't see it. And shout out to the Barcelona crowd as always. There's international crowds show up and show out like no other, man. Axiom, homegrown talent, given that moment to shine, and yeah, I'm all for those moments. So, really a good match. Yeah, you knew Gunther was gonna ultimately win, but it's what they've been doing with that Gunther character, just with him doubting his confidence. Picking out these people who he assumes is just going to be like a squash match, and then oh, you got a real fight on your hands. To now where he's going to Jimmy and pleading with Jimmy to tell Jay, hey, back off here. I don't want to do this, but you're making me do this, so to speak. And it's all set up, like all of it is to weaken Gunter for Jay to win. And I get all that. Um, but even to Jay, for his moment and his win, which whether we like it or not, or want to debate it or not, is built off the back of Yeet. It would be better to me personally if he would beat a Gunther who is just that heel that is going to complete the mission at all costs, not with this soft spot in his heart. Like, I'm going to take it easy on you, or I'm trying to give you an out here. So to me, that's where it kind of weakens Gunther, and it doesn't do much for Jay as far as when he does ultimately get his hand raised at Mania. So, um, again, if that's well, that is what they're doing. I just think they could do that better. But that's where everybody knows we are gonna yeet at Mania for sure, 100%. That's happening. Write it down. But just keep Gunther and have Jay beat that Gunther. So I don't know why you wouldn't have him do that, but it's not my company to run. So yeah. Now we get to the close of the show. The Street Profits. The Street Profits, man. Shout out to Montez Ford. Shout out to Angelo Dawkins. Major shout out to Angelo Dawkins. If we're just being honest here, calling a spade, I think for the last, year and a half, if you were going to say, it, I don't even want to use the term weakling, but Montez Ford has just been, at a different level, at a different at a different place, and that is in part due for real personal stuff that has gone on in Angelo's life. So that's no shade, no knock on him, no nothing. Um, so they win. They are your new WWE Tag Team Champions. And I had to go back and rewind it to see if I heard it accurate. That this is only the second time they've been WWE Tag Team Champions. As long as they've been a tag team and one of the best tag teams in a, yes, sporadic, sometimes non-existent tag team division, how they have only won it twice to this point. I'm not even going to go down the list of people who have already won the titles more with far less time. Um, so I say all that to say that much like the Jay Gunter situation, having the title change this close to Mania, I don't know what that does for the profits. I love the moment. Because I didn't think it was going to happen. I firmly thought they were going to lose, and yeah, here we go doing the same thing we've always done. But you pulled the trigger. You've now put the titles on them. I'm not even convinced that whatever happens at Mania, because again, I'm for certain this is at least a tornado tag or a triple threat tag or what the hell ever. If you do not have the profits walk out of Mania the champions, this is you just shot yourself in the foot, and this is 100% the same shit you've always been doing with the Street Profits. In which case, then you can see the transition that Montez has made, and he is ready to be a singles wrestler, a singles champion, a singles star. If you are going to keep them as a tag team with a, you see that, there are enough tag teams to build a very good tag team division. At this point, you just pulled the trigger and made them champions. You gotta make them dominant champions, win that title at Mania, and continue throughout the summer and whatever into Survivor Series or whatever it is. But for shit's sake, man, like don't do the same shit with the profits that you've always been doing. And granted, that's injury will play a part in that as well. So hopefully the injury bug does not strike these guys, but man, Angelo Dawkins has made huge improvements since they have returned. It is a different Angelo Dawkins, and as good as Montez was before, he's, I think, even gotten a little better. So I mean, for shit's sake, if you do not either put them as the head of your tag division or have Montez break off at this point, damn, man. I don't know where else you go from them or go with them from that, but they are both ready to either cook in the tag team department or Montez can be a single star right now. Um, so those are pretty much my thoughts for SmackDown going into Mania. So again, like usual, couple brawls, couple promos, just extending the story, as usual. But we got what, 35 days or so now to Mania, so not that far. And these pictures are going to have to start coming into a little bit better focus. So yeah, those are my thoughts for SmackDown. All right, so let's get into some AEW Dynamite, and I'm going to tie a little bit of Collision in there just with some promos, but this is mainly, from what happened on Dynamite this past week. But show starts off with Kenny Omega, your new international champion, after he beat Takeshita. A great match again, as you would imagine between them two if you haven't seen it. But so it goes on to talk about the new International Championship tournament, of course, because it's AEW. Um, you know, I don't know. So I saw one. There was I guess a four way coming up with Cassidy, Ricochet, somebody, and then Mark Davis, who won a match. Qualifying him for this. We've seen a couple promos now here from Ricochet since his loss to Swerve. So I'd imagine he's going to win that match there. Um, I like Kenny's promo again in the way, what he was talking about, if this is going to be an international championship, then Ash Takeshita did, you're going to wrestle in Japan and Mexico and, Australia and wherever else. So I do like that. I like Omega being back as a singles wrestler and not really doing anything with a faction or elite right now or anything like that. So, um, we'll see where it goes, but again, it's a tournament again from AEW that we'll see who winds up winning. I'll say I don't even know who's in it, but it can't be Ricochet. Like I'm like I don't know. It's Ricochet is now. I don't know. I like what he's doing better than really anything he's ever done in WWE. Um, but it's one of like I just still don't really know what he is, what he's doing, what his story is, what or if it's just to go out and have a bunch of banger matches, which he absolutely will do. So we'll see where Ricochet goes in that tournament and whatever. But for now, Omega is your champ once again, and yeah, he's gonna put on banger match after banger match. So we'll see. And from there we get into a newly formed faction, which I had mentioned I like the faction, the Ops. It's a cool name. And with the three guys involved, you know what they're there to do. They're just there to fuck shit up. And as James has mentioned many, many times, squash matches, right? Local talents. That's what this was. Down to, and I got to give a shout out to this guy because this is one of the best names I've just heard. I don't know if he's a local talent or whatever, but in these types of matches, and his name was Eli Thesis. And just for a jobber squash match kind of dude, like, and again, I don't like using those terms, but even them, they know what their purpose is within that wrestling match and telling a story, and they did. That's how those matches should go. But fucking shout out to Eli Thesis. And I don't even know if it was the guy because they never really said his name once he was in there. But if it's the guy who, when tagged in, kind of hawked up and dove and completely missed, that's what you do with a guy whose name is Eli fucking Thesis. So, that just little part, while it meant nothing in the big scheme of things, um, that's how you do it, man. And when it's done, correctly, entertainingly, it's good. So we'll see where this faction, the Ops, goes. I like it. It's one of those things where like, okay, if you're gonna make, and I know they're on Collision right now, but I mean, if you're gonna make them a badass faction, at some point they got to go up against the Hurt Syndicate, Death Riders. So we'll see if they get that far. But right now, Samoa Joe heading that up. The Ops, we're just coming in to kick your ass. I like everything about it, man. So yeah, pretty good with that kind of stuff from the Ops there. Now I'm gonna kind of get into the whole Mox, Swerve, Copeland, Christian, four-way thing we have going on here. First, I want to say shout out to Swerve. If you saw the promo from Dynamite and what he did in Collision, I think both of them were exactly what they needed to be. the little backstage interaction between Copeland and Moxley, or I'm sorry, Copeland and Swerve, exactly what it needed to be. So I'll say, we got this match coming up on April 6th, which 3 weeks from now. Okay. Uh, but we already know we're getting a rematch next week with Copeland, in which I assume Christian's going to interfere again. Um, so I'm wondering if this is too soon to have those two matches with Moxley, where I guess he's going to win, um, and then have Swerve immediately beat him without really having a story or a feud between them. Because I look at Swerve Strickland, I think he is your next WW or AEW champion, hands down. I think that is your next guy. But build a story for him to get that championship. And if you want to say that's because it's the year, anniversary, okay, yeah, that's a okay story if you want to do that. I get it. I see where you're going, but I guess my thing is just that you're going to do this now in 3 weeks, or you still have Swerve lose, at that match. So that's just one of those things where I don't know if it's just the timing of it all just doesn't work out great, or whatever it is. But I don't think you need to rush this. I think if you were going to have Swerve beat whoever it is, if it's Copeland or if it's Mox, you can build a badass feud with both of those people, and not just some 3 hour, at that point, it'll be a 2 week thing. So that's my only hesitation there, to really wonder if Swerve's going to win at that during that match. So we'll see there. I think there's still more story to tell between him and Copeland. And obviously Christian is going to play a part here. And you see with Collision, you see the little fracture starting within the patriarchy, as I thought that was a damn good little backstage promo, where you see Nick, kind of, finally stepping up to Christian and calling him a liar, calling him out on all his bullshit. To the point of telling his mom, he can have her right back at the Waffle House if she doesn't stay in line. So that I think is going to be a good, or can be a good story in and of itself. I would just, it's just that thing of like, don't try to mesh all these things into one and rush all of it, because all of it is really good separately. And if you want to, kind of just tie it in here and there, sure. But man, that's all I'm saying about AEW and their consistent, how they book, and the consistency of it is, we're talking about this, event coming up on April 6th, and we got this rematch, and the patriarchy may be fracturing. And I think that's AEW 101, that they're going to merge all of it and do all of it half-assed. So prove me wrong, Nick Khan, Tony Khan, sorry, not Nick Khan, Tony Khan. Now let's get into the brightest spot in women's wrestling, arguably in wrestling, period, man. And I mean that wholeheartedly, hands down, without a doubt. Timeless Tony fucking Storm, man. The promo on Wednesday, when she got attacked by Megan Bain, and also the follow-up on Collision to that. I mean, dude, I said it last podcast, man. This woman has taken women's wrestling to an area they have never been before. Not like this, they haven't. Not with that kind of freedom and character work, and the ability, or the, I don't know, the green light, so to speak, to go out there and have a match with glass and tables and shoes. So yeah, man. I mean, Tony Storm is just, oh, she is one of one. She is she is what you want in a professional wrestler, man, woman, doesn't matter. She is a professional wrestler, and man, we should all be thanking her for what she has been doing for the last couple years here. Because once she was tapped into this Tony Storm gimmick or timeless Tony Storm, um, she has revolutionized women's wrestling, man. She really, really has. So shout out to her and Mariah May, who has come along and done the dance with her. And now we have Megan Bain. I'll be honest, I don't know much about Megan Bain. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there on the internet know a lot about her. I do not. Her costume, right? Her gimmick, screams like importance. Here it's a good look. She looks great, obviously, and I don't mean that. And yes, she's a beautiful woman. She's got the tits and ass, sure, but she's got what it takes to be in there in the ring. Um, we haven't heard her, or I haven't heard her on the mic yet. So maybe maybe you guys out there have. So that's what I'm waiting to hear from her. I really haven't heard how she speaks, how she can carry a promo. But the look, the gimmick, to go up against Tony Storm here, if that's her next opponent, okay, let's see what you can do. Um, and I also got to give, I guess, the benefit of the doubt to Tony Storm in a way here as well. I didn't know Mariah May. Now I think we all know Mariah May. And while that is attributed to Mariah May, sure, it's also, again, in wrestling, it takes two to do that dance, man. And Megan Bain has arguably the best dance partner in women's wrestling, bar none, right now. So, man, let's see what these two women can do. But that's where I'm holding out on Megan Bain is I just don't really know enough about her. But timeless Tony Storm, man. Oh, thank you for being a breath of fresh air in wrestling, and I say that again in just in wrestling, not distinguishing it from men's or females wrestling. Just a breath of fresh air in wrestling, across the board. She has done what we all ask, or what we all say we want from wrestlers, right? The work ethic, the commitment to the gimmick, the in-ring works, the promos, the all that. And who's doing it better? Name somebody that's doing it better. I'd be hard pressed to find anybody. So those are pretty much my main takeaways. I like the stuff going on with Swerve, and I know, I guess there's internet hate for Mox and his title run. The way he cuts a promo and what they are and what the Death Riders are, I don't see the issue there. I mean, that the promos fit, the gimmick fits, the faction as a whole, the members fit. So I mean, yeah, you can argue it's maybe time for him to lose that title. That's fine. Maybe that's Swerve. I would love to see Swerve take that off him, but to say that like the Death Riders gimmick or Mox's gimmick as the champion isn't working, I don't know what y'all are seeing there, but um, is it time for somebody else to be champion? Yeah, sure, maybe. But it just, and if there is a person, I do think that's Swerve. So next week when we get that, what is it, no holds barred or no DQ match, again, we know there's going to be interference from Christian, and uh, however it goes down, again, it's kind of like, changing the belts this close to Mania. Like, if you're hyping up this event for Swerve and his 1 year anniversary at I think the event, or the show is Revolution, I think. Um, why would you have a title change 2 weeks beforehand? So I'm assuming that's Mox and Swerve. And I don't know how that, I'm 50-50 on that one. I don't know if they would book that for Mox to win or Swerve to kind of try to climb that ladder again. So all in all, Swerve is nailing it. Tony Storm is just absolutely fucking killing it. Um, lot of good stuff in AEW as WWE. There really is. It's just a lot of those things are uh you're really close to the main event here being your WrestleMania or whatever, and we got to get the ball rolling a little bit more as far as I'm concerned. But those are my thoughts for SmackDown and AEW Dynamite this week. But as always, we thank you for tuning in, listen, agreeing, disagreeing, arguing. Give us a shout out, share us. I just thank you all who have been along for this ride with me and James. But check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can check us out on all those platforms. Once again, we got WrestleMania Roundtable coming up as we're only 35 days away from Mania. And we'll have James back on our next episode. So until then,